And welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Tonight we have part 2 of our Linux terminal series, and we're talking about using various commands in the Linux terminal and how to navigate through your file system and so forth. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I encourage you to go check that out. It's only about 9 minutes or so. It'll give you somewhat of a foundation to better understand what we're talking about in this part when we talk about changing directories and so forth. The intention is to keep these as rudimentary and elementary as possible initially at the start of the series for the newer users to help get their feet wet and help make them feel more comfortable in using the terminal. And of course, as we progress, we'll get a little bit more advanced each time. All right, so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about copying and pasting files and directories, a little bit more about navigating through your file system using change directory, displaying some basic information in your terminal. We're going to cover how to list out your PCI and USB devices. We're going to play around with grep a little bit, and we're going to talk about installing and removing various applications in your system, all using the terminal. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, so starting off the first part of this video, I want to talk a little bit about just displaying a few pieces of information in your terminal. So if you want to know what kernel you're using, you simply type in uname, hit enter, and of course we have Linux. If you want to know what your host name is, just type host name. As you might have guessed, hit enter and pop OS. I've never really changed my host name, I just leave it at pop OS. Now, if you want to know what PCI and USB devices you have, we'll type in the following commands. So first we're going to go with PCI devices. So if you remember from the first video, ls stands for list, and then type PCI. So we're going to list out our PCI devices, hit enter. And you can see we have a list of all the PCI devices in the system. And let's clear that out for housekeeping's sake. Now let's take a look at our USB devices. So ls again for list, and then USB, that'll list out our USB devices. Hit enter, and here we go. So these are all the USB devices that I currently have active on my system. My Blue Yeti Nano, my Razer gaming mouse, my webcam, and my Elgato, and so on and so forth. And this type of information may come in handy when you're trying to do things like creating a group and configuring your racing wheel or throttle, or flight stick, I should say. Flight stick and throttle. All right, so let's go ahead and clear this out. All right, let's move on to the next part. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about installing and removing applications. So I want to use the example of a calendar in our terminal. So let's type in cal, which is the command for the calendar. Hit enter, and you see we do not have it installed. But Linux does give us a recommendation, sudo apt install ncal. So to install an application, we type in sudo apt install and then the name of the application. So let's try it. Sudo apt install ncal, hit enter, let's put in our password, and we are good to go. Now if we type cal for the calendar, there's our calendar. Pretty simple, pretty easy. So let's say we want to remove this. So let's go ahead and clear this out. To remove an application, you simply type sudo apt remove and then the name of the application. Hit enter, hit yes, and now it's gone. So now if we type cal, it says no such file or directory. So it has been removed. We can also use sudo apt auto remove and cal, which we'll talk about more in more detail in a later video, but it's not installed, so nothing to remove. Let's clear this out. All right, let's move on. Real quick on this, we'll talk more about repositories again in a future video, but my recommendation is if you're new to Linux, check your pop shop first or whatever package manager you have for the application that you're looking for. If it's not there, then try it in the terminal. And if you still can't find it, you may need to add another repository wherever that package is maintained. And we'll talk more about that again in a later video. We're trying to keep this very rudimentary here at the very start. Okay, now we can move on to the next section, which is copying and pasting our files and directories. Okay, so let's say we want to copy a file. We'll walk you through this by using an example. So we're going to change directory, and we'll go to our pictures again. And then we want to change directory to wallpapers. If you remember from the first video, we did this. Now let's list and see what we have. All right, so we have quite a few images here that I use for my wallpapers on my desktop. And I think I'm going to go ahead and mess around with My Hero of My Hero Academia. One of those old wallpapers I had in a previous video. Feels like ages ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. Alright, so to copy a file into the same directory, we're going to need to rename it, of course, because we can't have two files with the exact same name. But we're going to use the command CP for copy paste. Then we're going to type in the name of the original file, which is myhero.jpg. Then put a space. Then we're going to type in myhero2.jpg. Remember, the files cannot be named exactly the same if they're in the same directory. Now if we hit enter, it is finished. So let's run another list. And you can see myhero2.jpg is now here. So let's clear this out. Now, if we want to remove that file and delete it, we simply type rm myhero2.jpg, hit enter, run our list, and you can see it is now gone. Okay, so let's say we want to copy this file from my wallpapers directory into the home directory. So if you remember from the first video, the tilde is a quick reference to home. So we can just say copy myhero.jpg, and our target is going to be tilde. So the basic formula for this is CP for copy paste, the name of the file that you're copying, CP being the commands. This is what I want to do. I want to copy and paste this file, which is the next part of the script or the line, and then destination. In this case, tilde represents home, so we're copying the My Hero JPEG or JPG from this directory, and we are pasting it in the home directory. We'll hit enter, and if you remember from the first video, we changed directory and tilde. That takes us back home. We can run a list, and we can see that the My Hero JPG is now in the home directory. So for housekeeping purposes, let's go ahead and remove it. Just type in rm, the name of the file, .jpg. So looking at this, this is the action I want to remove this folder, and we are already in the home directory. Hit enter. And list it out. And you can see the file is now gone. All right, so let's move on to the next section, which is going to be copying and moving directories. All right, so let's talk about moving and copying directories. Well, moving them around and copying them. So first thing we want to do is list up we're in the home directory. So let's go to our documents. So change directory to documents. And let's see what we have in there. We've got bash scripts, Linux documentation, same thing as we had in part 1 of this series. So let's go ahead and create some directories. Let's make directory. Let's do test1 or test1 and test2. So we'll make those. Let's list and check it out. And there they are. Test1 and test2. All right, so to copy a directory, we're simply let's copy test1 into the test directory. So let's look and see what's inside the test directory first. Change directory to test, ls for list, nothing in there. So let's go back one, cd space ... That takes us back into our documents directory. So we're going to type in cp for copy paste, -r lowercase. It is case sensitive, by the way. Your Linux distribution might have a different syntax. For Pop! OS, it's a hyphen and a lowercase r, and that stands for recurse, I believe. So copy paste hyphen lowercase r. We're going to copy test1 into test. We have our action, and then we are copying this directory into this directory. So test1 is being copied into test. All right, so that's done. Let's take a look. And we still have test1 and test2. So let's go ahead and change directory into test. And let's see what's inside the test by a list. And there's our test1, our copy of our test1. So while we're in here, let's go ahead and just delete that. So remove directory. Remember from part 1 of the series, test1, and let's check it again, and it's gone. All right, so let's clear that out. And we're still in test. Let's do cd ... Go back to documents. List it out. Okay, so now let's move a directory. So we're going to move test1 into test. So to do that, we are going to type in mv for move, and then test1 into our target, which is test. And let's go and take a look at test. Actually, let's just do a list here in documents, and you can see test1 is no longer in our documents directory. So we're going to change directory to test. Now we list it out, and there's our test1 directory. So we moved it from here into here. All right, so let's go ahead and remove that. Test1, and it's clear. Let's do a cd, go back to our directory folder. Let's list it. Let's go ahead and remove test and test2 for housekeeping purposes. And we're good to go. So there you have it. Simple, easy. And one thing I recommend is if you are new to Linux and you're learning these commands, I went, when I first started, I bought a notebook and a pen, and I just kind of jotted down every new command I learned with a little description next to them and what they did. And, you know, to this day, I still reference it. All right, so let's talk about grep real quick, and then we'll wrap up the video. So grep, G-R-E-P, it really more or less looks for a specific string in an output. So let's give it a shot. So grep is grep, but in this case, we are going to check out our video card, our GPU. So to do that, we're going to type in ls for list PCI. So list our PCI. Then we're going to put a line, and then we're going to put grep VGA, and then hit enter. And there we see compatible controller, Advanced Micro Devices Incorporated, AMD, ATI Navi 2, Radeon 7800 XT, and so on and so forth. All right, so grep can be used for multiple purposes, and I probably should have saved this one for later, in a later episode. So for now, just know that it's used to look for specific strings, and then we'll build on that upcoming videos down the road. All right, so that's going to wrap this video up. Let me clear this out. I thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, if you've got something out of it, something of value, please consider leaving a like, as it helps me in the algorithm, I believe. And if you want to see more of this content, please consider subscribing, and I'll turn on notifications. So thank you all again, and I hope to see you next video. So stay safe out there and have a good one.